Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination thrive. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Happy Friday. Was not planning on doing this one today, simple because I had other plans, and we are going to talk about this in much greater detail Saturday night. And this is Netflix nonsense. Oh, geez. I call bullshit. I am of the firm belief that even though Netflix may make a bid, it may be like what Universal Comcast did back when Disney was trying to acquire Fox, which was make a last minute bid or make a bid of their own to drive up the price to hurt a competitor. This, let me say hi to the for you guys that are here. Hi, Hal Jordan. Hi, Aaron. Like I said, we're going to go into more detail this tomorrow. Here's where I think about this. I've been getting stuff in my e-box, my inbox day asking, what does this mean for this? What does this mean for that? And then obviously I know Snyder people are like, well, Netflix, they actually did. So no, nothing's happened yet. All Netflix is doing is preparing a bid. What makes me skeptical about this bid is the fact that at any point in time, anybody other than Paramount, Skydance, or whatever the hell they are, could have made a bid or could have made an offer. I don't understand why any company would do it now when they're going to be in the midst of a bidding war and they're probably going to end up overpaying. I understand why Paramount Skydance did it because they were in the business of they could not make a bid. They weren't a company yet. But as soon as they did, they made a move. And people were saying, well, under a different administration, it would have been blocked. It doesn't matter. This administration has been in place long enough for the Paramount Skydance one to happen. So those other people never even made a bid to get rejected. There was never any interest in Warner Brothers Discovery. So why would you do it now? What's going on? Is it just to keep it from Paramount? I don't think that's a big enough reason, but I've seen the offer that Skydance is going to make. It's going to be like $23 a share. The current what's the current WBD stock holding at right now? I think it was at 18, which is, like I said, it's overvalued. So that's 1933 right now, which is the highest it's been in a long time. So they're offering it about $23. So they're overpaying for the stock, which means whoever outbids them is going to even overpay beyond that. So, Warner Brothers has had a winning streak this year, but it doesn't erase $35 billion in debt, which is what you would be accumulating. Now, the Ellison family could accumulate that no problem. I see why Paramount Skydance is doing it. I don't understand why Apple would do it. I don't. Well, why they would do it now? I understand why they would do it in general, but why now of all times? Why now when you would be paying the highest price you would for this company and possibly overpaying for the company and you're accumulating their debt, even though Apple, all the remaining people involved could probably absorb the debt. Netflix, they got their own debt too. So I don't know what that would do for their stock. I also, hello, Spot. Skydance could buy Disney. They're fucked because nobody wants to work for them since they canceled Kimmel. I don't think Skydance is buying Disney. I don't think that. I think Skydance has their sights set on Warner Brothers. Disney is way more, and I don't think Disney's for sale for one. But that could change when I wake up tomorrow. But I think they have their sights set on Warner Brothers. The Jimmy Kimmel thing is not going to last. I think this is going to end one or two things. He's going to sue and win, or they're going to lose a lot of subscribers because right now, just this morning, the site where you go to cancel your Disney Plus is crashed because so many people did it. So something's going to have to give. There's going to be some kind of settlement reached. I don't think Kimmel's going to apologize. He doesn't have to. He's got like 60 million in the bank. He's closing in on 60s. He could retire today and it wouldn't matter. He could go on and podcast somewhere and make a ton of money. He could get his own YouTube channel and make money. He's not going to budge. I don't believe Kimmel's going to budge, but I do believe that there is going to be pressure towards the FCC because they're going to get sued. It's not Disney and Disney that really Kimmel should be aiming his lawsuits at, in my opinion. I think it's the FCC because the FCC interfered into an arrangement and into an agreement that has nothing to do with the government by using a threat of consequence. Whenever you use a threat of consequence, you now put yourself in the middle of a lawful interaction between Jimmy Kimmel and his employer. And the fact that he went on there, Commissioner Carr went on TV and issued that threat is really going to be something. If I'm Jimmy Kimmel, he's already talking to his lawyers, so I think there's going to be some type of settlement out of there. They're gonna have to do it in a way where somebody saves face, but yeah, that situation is not going to be forever. So but yeah, it's an ugly industry right now. The bidding is going to happen now that when the midterms happen, we might have a different because you could have congressional oversight over all this. I don't know how much Netflix is going to bid for Paramount. So I mean, for Warner Brothers. I mean, like I said, NBC Universal did that shit back in what 2017, 2018 when Disney overpaid for Fox by about $30 billion because Comcast came in there and fucked them. Came in there and basically and made an offer. They had I don't believe Universal Comcast had any intentions on purchasing Fox. They just wanted to make Disney bleed out more. And this might be the case here with Netflix. Then once again, I don't think NBC Universal has any intentions. I think what NBA Universal wants to do is make their competitors bleed out more money and put them in a position where the sale hurts because Disney is still hurting from that Fox sale. Even if they got IPs that they wanted, that $74 billion for Fox at the time was grossly overvalued. And that's what they're doing right now. If you can make your competitors bleed out more money, that's less resources to compete with you. Hi, Bill. Hi, Antonio. Hi, Ozzy. All right, and then this comes to the whole sell Netflix thing, which like I said, every time you even mention it, it's like your dog shitting on the front yard and you leaving it there, and then there's flies. I don't think this means anything for that. I don't think it means, and when you're talking about the ramifications and the consequences of what could happen if, say, Netflix were to purchase Warner Brothers Discovery, the conclusion of our little story that we love is not even a microscopic piece of dust on the table as far as anything being thought about right now. you're in the consequences of that are bigger than that anyway. When you're talking about Netflix, now here's two ways that this can go. And we're going into this more detail tomorrow. I just felt like getting a little bit off of it right now, to give you like a primer of what we'll be going into. If Netflix there's two things, two ways this could go. Netflix could be like, you know what, get off our backs about this. We're killing the theater. Here, we just purchased Warner Brothers. They're going to be our theater apparatus. All our theater distribution is going to go through them, and we're going to be Netflix. Because I keep telling people, Netflix is not going to stop being Netflix. Netflix doesn't give a fuck about the theater model because that's not what they're selling. But if they wanted to get into that infrastructure, they could buy a ready-made infrastructure in Warner Brothers Discovery. So that's the big thing. However, there is the other thing that they could do. Netflix could continue to be Netflix and not care about the theater model. And in this case, they could just be purchasing Warner Brothers for their IPs so they could add to their content, which is Netflix, which means they may abandon. They could, I doubt it, but they could outright abandon. Well, they wouldn't be abandoning the theater model. They were never in the theater model. But what they could do is they could take Warner Brothers Discovery out of it. Now, Warner Brothers Discovery makes up for a good share of American studio movies made. Them being taken out of the theater distribution would I don't want to over exaggerate and say that would kill cinema. But I think that's hyper. I mean, I think that's. However, it could do significant damage if they decided that they would just absorb Warner Brothers' content into their own model, which means they would use Warner Brothers now would be making high-end movies for HBO Max and Netflix or both. If they don't, I don't think they would combine the two. Now, if that's the case, now you look at the percentage that Warner Brothers makes up of American movies and American film revenue, it's pretty big, especially like this year. Even though if they're not making the most money some years, it doesn't matter if who's first. It matters if just because I have like a Disney or somebody that has like a large, massive piece of the pie. If I take away the rest of the pile, I have less to work with. That's less jobs. That's less everything. That's less quality movies. That's less that's going to affect the brick and mortar theater business because the percentage that they make up is going to cause less movies, and that's not going to be made up by other studios. Other studios are not going to up their production, and they all have their streaming service as well. But if Warner Brothers was to go exclusively streaming that from model, which like I said, doubt that would happen, but it's a possibility, that would have a reverberating effect around all of entertainment. Like I said, I don't want to say it would kill the movie industry. It would either hurt them or cause them to make adjustments that I don't know if they'd be able to make without because now you're talking about if you hurt the cinema industry, you have no platform for those type of movies. Because now, say for instance, we say Warner Brothers is making up. I'm just going to throw a number out there. You can say which it's 30%, right? Just for argument's sake, say Warner Brothers makes up for 30% of the American box office revenue. Even if you got I still got 70%. I don't know any business that can lose 30% of anything and still survive. Shit, I don't know any business that can lose 10% of anything in this era and still survive without having to make massive changes. But once you start getting into the 15, 20 to 30% of any type of loss, because you realize your infrastructure at your current infrastructure is being supported by what you currently bring in. So you're supporting a certain level of business with what you have coming in. If you were to take 10, 15, 30% of that, you're no longer being able to support that infrastructure. And if it goes on too long, you can't support any infrastructure. That's how businesses go out of business. They don't go out of business because they lose everything. You go out of business because you lose enough. And Warner Brothers makes up enough of the market share to where, it's gonna hurt. I don't know what they would do to make up for that. As far as cinema goes. I still believe Zach is going to finish the story. I don't need to beat with Netflix because I do not want Justice League on my TV screen as opposed to in theaters. Like I said, I think what's going on with Netflix is not really relevant to the whole Zack Snyder thing. Um, technically it's a possibility, but I don't think that's anywhere near. I mean, even if it were to happen, and like I said, I highly doubt that this one goes down. You're years away from even thinking about that. Who knows? And who knows what his relationship is with net. I don't know, but the bigger ramifications are going to be the market shares if they decide to bring everything into streaming. Now, I don't even know why they are even in the bidding, be honest with you. But like I said, I think it could be to drive up the price to hurt their competitors. Same thing with in Universal Comcast. You remember, Universal Comcast did this. They did this. They forced Fox, or they forced Marvel Studios and Disney to come out a pocket of $30 extra billion that they did not want to spend because they knew how bad Marvel Studios and Disney wanted Fox and those IPs. So they basically knew they went in there, they pushed up the number, and they knew they were going to get outbid, but they made it so that Disney had to pay a lot more, and that sell hurt. 30. Can you imagine overpaying by $30 billion? A $45 billion company. They ended up paying $73 billion for their company because NBC, Universal, Comcast came in there and said, "We're going to fuck with you." Exactly what they had no intention, in my opinion, of buying that IP. So who knows? Let's see. Hi, Spot. How you doing? Question, William. What about Universal? Once again, even if Universal were to get in, I think it's basically to screw everybody else because it's not in their interest. I mean, if as far as they're concerned, if you're going to merge, if this is going to happen, and why would we make this painless for you? But even then, if the sale would complete, the way they could fast track this, Antonio, before a new Congress could take place. I think it's going to be Paramount, to be honest, and I'm not too much of a big fan of that, to be honest with you. But I think it's going to be Paramount. Yeah, but once again, Apple hasn't made a bid, and Apple wouldn't be outbid. I mean, the only people that could these three companies that people bring up, Apple, Microsoft, and like Amazon, they're not going to get they could outbid each other, but none of those companies need what Warner Brothers has at the moment, or they would have taken it already. There's no situation that exists now on September 19th or September 20th, 2025, that Amazon, Microsoft, or Apple could not have overcome at any point during this time. They could have done it before WBD. They were dude, all these people were there when the Discovery Channel, when Discovery purchased Warner Brothers. They were all there with way more money than Discovery had. If they wanted it, they would have taken it then. So, Mike, like I said, my question continues to be: these companies that could have done it, like I said, like that, why didn't they do it? And why would they do it now? I mean, I'm just curious at that point. Saudis could do it. I think the problem with the Saudis is I think that would have a lot of pushback in Congress. You'd have a lot of even though you have the FCC going in their pocket. Once congressional people get involved, then you start having problems with hearings and blocking. They can block that. Congressional can block it. Hey, Jose, yeah. I just wanted to, because I can get this question all day. Like I said, we're gonna go into details, and I'll pull up some stuff tomorrow. But yeah, I've seen a lot of consternation about the theatrical experience being threatened today because Netflix is not a theatrical business. That's not what they do. But like I said, two ways this could go down. they could turn Warner Brothers into their theatrical now Warner Brothers is a distributor. So if Netflix did want to get into that business, it'd be a lot easier for them because they have a distributor in Warner Brothers that could distribute their stuff. Or they could decide, you know what, we want people. Our main cash base is people subscribing to our platform to our service. And if we have all Warner Brothers library and Warner Brothers is making high end movies for us, and that's more people, they could go either way. I don't know because I never really took them seriously as a contender because once again, if it's not broke, why are you fixing it? That's just my. Yeah, once again, why not? At the time he said that would have been the time to do it. Why not do it right then? No one was stopping them. Especially, like I said, they were looking for a studio prior to that. Prior to David Zaslav engineering the sale, with his company. And there's no way that, if Tim Cook comes into the office with his bag of money, that there's only two other people that are going to come in with bigger bags, if possible. It wouldn't have been Universal, and it wouldn't have been the Pimple Popper guy. So I mean, I'm just curious. Oh yeah, I was watching the Dodger game with my dad, Clayton Kershaw's last performance as a Dodger at Dodger Stadium, and we just got that announcement yesterday, so I was spending some time there. William Geek, we missed you in the chat for Bell's show. Oh, geez. Somebody told me I need to rewatch. I need to watch Max's stream for some reason. I'll keep an eye on that. I might watch that after I'm done there. I would rather Apple, as much as I want to say it, Microsoft buy Warner Brothers and another studio will go up and affect us. I mean, either one of them are going to have the same effect, but at least they'll have the money. What's the plan for? Well, I got Wicked tomorrow, and that's a 3-hour movie. So, me in store, I'm giving away comic books. I'm giving away Batman buttons, and I have up to 50% off sale on anything Batman in the store. That'll be happening from 12:30 p.m. tomorrow, or 12:30 p.m. tomorrow till about midnight tomorrow. So about 12 hours. That's why I didn't. He should have just bought the IPs and done with instead of buying the whole two. Well, the problem is you're not going to give up those IP. If you're the studio wanting to be sold, there's no value. You're giving up something that's way too much value. If you want to sell me Warner Brothers Discovery without some of the IPs they have, I need them all. I need them all to justify the price I'm asking. Disney's not going to make one. Disney's not going to make one. Apple could. Apple, Microsoft, they could, but they always have. They could have always done it. Nothing has changed. Nothing in their situation, nothing in Warner Brothers' situation. Remember, Warner Brothers' debt load doesn't matter to them because they have so much money. So, I mean, like I said, people keep bringing those up, and that's fine. But my question is, why would you do it now? I mean, just keeping it from Paramount, what doesn't sound like enough to overpay for a company, but maybe it's not my money. Let's see. If NF, what's NF? What's NF? Oh, Netflix. If Netflix acquired, yeah, that's another thing I hadn't looked into. I don't know if Netflix wants. I think Netflix would want to buy the streaming, and see that's the other thing where this bid goes away, in my opinion, is because Ellison's wanting to buy the whole thing, and that's going to be a higher dollar price for the stockholders. They don't have to. They can just take it outright. They can just take an outright cash buyout of their stock at $23, which is $4 more than it's worth, and be done with it. Just be rich, So, how you doing, Forth? Wow, fuck, this must have been some chat we missed, man. Oh, one battle after another. Sounds like a streamer for me. Isn't that Leonardo DiCaprio? I just don't feel compelled to go to the movies to see that. Oh, Paul Thomas Anderson. This movie has a lot of people in it, though. I mean, it has everybody, and it's like that fucking Odyssey. Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn. Of your first three people are Academy Award winners: Benicio del Toro. Did Regina Hall win anything? She hasn't won anything. She's been nominated though. Chase Infinity, Woody, Wood Harris, Lana Haim. She's good. She's acting again. Let's see. It's a long movie. Let's look. When an enemy resurfaces after 16 years, a group of ex-revolutionaries unite to rescue the daughter of one of their own. When is this coming out? This is already. This is out. Chinese theater. Okay, it's coming out next week. I think I got passes for that. I don't know if I'm gonna go see that though. So there's a battle between Paramount, NBC Universal, and Netflix for the Grand Old Prize. Like I said, I don't know how serious NBC Universal is because they have a history of driving up the price and then not doing anything. Paramount is serious about doing it. They made the first move. I don't know if Netflix wants the company as a whole too. We'll go over that in detail tomorrow because if they're not going to buy it as a whole, then it's up to the stockholders to decide what offer that they want. Yeah. This is all could be just smoke and mirrors. What happens to CBS Sports and TBS Sports if WB Paramount merge? Not sure. Not sure. I'm assuming that well, they both have linear networks, so Christopher Eubanks. I want Netflix on WBT at Grey Cup 112 Netflix would be. Oh, you're talking about Canadian football? Right, that wasn't on the bingo card. How you doing, Daniel Martin? Well, that's another thing is when you do this, if they do decide to consolidate, yeah, you have nowhere to go. You either if you want the product, you pay for it. No, none of this is a foregone confusion, Daniel Martin. None of it. These are just people preparing to make bids. Yeah. Oh my God, Aaron's. I can picture her singing, doing the fusion dance right now. Remember at the time Biden was in office, I don't think the time is past for them to sell yet. No, but they can waive that. The FCC can always waive that. The FCC, SEC, the regulators, whichever one's on slate, can waive that, and they don't, unless somebody steps up and says anything. After we watch, I'm gonna probably watch it the stream afterwards. Yeah, you mean a giant lizard looking thing? I'm like, wow, that escalated. Yes, it did, and I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see that. I was really worried about that comic book, man. I was really worried about that. Hello, Duckman. I mean, I don't know how. I mean, I don't know. And once again, just like my questions about if Paramount and David Ellison comes in with a vision, would it have anything to do with anything prior? I mean, he could uproot everything. But if he uproots everything, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to replace it with anything that we want to see. I to me, I've been advocating this, and I need people to listen. I need Jim Lee. I need Jim Lee. If I hear people say, well, Jim Lee wouldn't do it in comic form because of what's going on with James Gunn, and I need to let people need to understand. And Jim Lee, you don't work for James Gunn. You run DC Comics. What James Gunn is doing, whoever is running DC Studio is doing over in the motion picture side, has fuck nothing to do with your DC Comics. You create the stories that get adapted. It all starts with the comic book. So I have been a long advocate of if I had the opportunity now, and you gave me the keys to everything, you gave me everything and said, William, you're gonna finish the story, do it the way you want to do it. Unpopular opinion amongst some of my fellow homies out there, we're starting with the papers and staples. We're starting with the comic book. I am not entertaining live action. I am not even allowing you into my office for live action. I am not allowing you into my office for animation. You can stay locked out. You can hang out in the lobby while I invite the comic book people in. And the reason being is because once you reestablish the story there, just like Scott Snyder has done with Absolute Batman, just like, everybody who's working on Absolute Batman and DC All In and has reinvigorated and reestablished the foundation of the storytelling is the comic books. Once you do that, you have numbers, you have responses, you have something to gauge whatever else you're going to do. I don't care wherever your next step is, sock puppets, claymation, cartoons, live action, doesn't matter. But once you have an established IP that way where you have quantitative numbers, then you can go any other direction. Two, the comic book format gives you landscape and real estate to tell everything. No, well, I would have done this if I had this kind of time. And they said, no, you put that 12 issues maxi series, just like you did with Watchmen, and have all the satellite stories. You can tell the entire story and then let someone adapt it. Because I shit you not, within 3 years, there is going to be another platform that will adapt Absolute Batman, that will adapt Absolute Wonder Woman, that will adapt Absolute Superman, whether it be live action, anime, elsewhere, somewhere, somebody is going to look at those numbers and be like, there's no way you're going to sell 500,000 and a plus of these comics as they come out. First run, 250,000 of second and third and fourth and fifth prints, first run, without somebody looking at that and seeing a golden goose. But once you have established the IP as something viable there, then you take the next step. So, like I said, unpopular opinion among some of my brethren, you ain't getting into that meeting if you come to me with live action right now. It's just not going to happen. The foundation needs to be hardened, and then we go from there. So whether Netflix owns whatever, Paramount owns whatever, doesn't matter. It needs to be Jim Lee. It needs to be, because when you start moving 500,000 copies of any comic, that's really good. And Absolute Batman has moved way more. And we're a year into this Absolute universe, and it hasn't waned. It's increased. And I guarantee you, within 3 years, if not sooner, you will see those IPs adapted into something outside of comics. If you do the same thing with the conclusion of the Dark Side trilogy or the Dark Side saga, whatever you want to call it, then because right now when you go into the office, they're, well, I want to restore the Snyderverse. Okay, give me your numbers. Why you want me? How am I spending money on this? Even if I'm on your side, because I'm sympathetic to that. I'm on board with you. I want to see the end of the story. But if you come out with just your desire to see it, I'm going to throw you out of the office. But if you come into me with a long, comprehensive plan, we're going to start here. Here's how we justify the money. Here's where we make our money back. Here's where we not only make some money, but we build just beyond us, people that have been wanting this forever. We start to grow that audience amongst other people. Now you have a financial base to where you can walk in, because I guarantee you, if you get like McFarland and Jim Lee and Joe Maduro, all these people that are working, Mike Diodato, all your top end artists, and you get them on a maxi series with all these variant covers and things like that, you're going to make a ton of money. You're going to make enough money to be able to go to somebody and say, there's an audience for this. Because right now, all we have is, I want to see it. That ain't shit. That's nothing. You want me to spend current 2025, 2026 money off of an IP that we haven't done anything like that with in years. And I'm not saying that it can't be done. You're asking me to go to other people and investors to spend money on a whim like that. And even as somebody who would support it, I can't even take that seriously. But you sell 500 copies of DSGL #1, or whatever you want to call it. You do that for 6 months straight, and we put out another imprint. We start putting out, and we sell 250,000, 400,000 of those. And it's not just a dollar amount we're talking about. We're talking about units moved, because the 500,000 copies, yeah, that equates to money. That's great. It's a lot of money, but it's units, because units can be transferred over, because a comic book costs $500. But if I have a buyer, a unit buying this, what else I can sell them other stuff that's associated with. So we're not just talking about somebody picking up a comic. We're talking about somebody who's willing to invest in an entire culture. You come into the office with that, now you're taken seriously. Right now, we don't have anything. We have nothing. So doesn't matter who buys Warner Brothers. I think it would be a disaster to try to resurrect something that has sat on the shelf and collected dust, and spend new money on it. We can get there, but you got to start where it all started: papers and staples. That's where I'm on. Yeah, if I can. Apparently, we all need to watch Max's stream. Christopher Eubanks. We want Disney dogs with Marvel Legends, mini comics, Silver Surfer, X-Minister, Phoenix, Rachel Summers, Beats. Well, that's a lot. Shit. Dude, maybe you need to buy this company, Christopher. Margot E. Paramount wants the entire business. Netflix would only want certain parts if they're waiting to split next. Yeah, and like I said, if Paramount wants the whole thing, that's just an easier sell. For if I'm a stockholder, I get all my money before it splits. I maybe if I just want out, that might be the more viable option. But like I said, we really don't know enough about this, to be honest with you. Yeah, most of it don't. But we don't have to be experts, but the consequences have been there. We've seen the consequences of these mergers. And yeah, it's a tough environment. I've heard horrible things about him. Did you even see that, Forrest? And that's another thing. Where's your audience at right now? I know we have a lot of people that are on YouTube that have prominent voices, but where's your audience at? Is there money to be made? So that's another thing you need to be able to make a case for when you walk in and say, I want anything restored. If you're asking something of someone else, you need to speak the language of the person you're asking something from, and that's money. So when you come into there with, well, we were robbed and all this, somebody's going to listen to that. You need to come in with, And like I said, the best way to find out if there's anybody out there to the numbers that you would need to invest in, I say comic books. It's the cheapest thing. You can print them out, papers and staples. It's cheap. We find out. Costs nothing to print a comic book in comparison to these other platforms, and it's less loss, less on the line. Well, like I said, we don't have to be experts on mergers. We are experts on the consequences. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand the consequences of these mergers because you can see it as a consumer. You can see your choices doing things. You can see your prices go up. You don't have to be any corporate anything, but to understand that. Now the dynamics of all that, I understand that that's going to be different. Stock dividends, things like that, we're not going to know, but we're going to understand. No, the dumbest person if he's buying something and paying for something, he knows the difference between this and that and with these prices. So yeah. Nah, we didn't have and I mean I filled up some buckets, but we didn't have any too many problems today. I don't know. I don't know. Um I mean, because you've had different people and it's just it's been that way because you've had poor leadership for so long. You haven't really had good leadership when it comes to the parent companies of Warner Brothers since the AOL merger. The AOL Time Warner merger, they're still hurting from that. That was one of the dumbest things, and one of the things that Ted Turner regrets doing. It ruined a lot of things, and to be honest with you, it's been a tumbleweed fix since then. That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. And I think because I think they sold 450,000. Oh, you're talking about the volume one, yeah, yeah, because I've been selling the shit out of that soft cover. Now, I mean, this is just my opinion, guys. If listen, we got a Snyderverse animated series, I'd watch it. I think you have a better chance of building something better and more comprehensive and more expansive and complete. There's the word I'm looking for, complete than you would if you did it any other way. I think that it needs to go in phases. I think the papers and staples need to come first, and then animation, and then live action or whatever, depending on what the numbers show us. But we also have to be prepared for the reality that whatever we put out there, and if it doesn't do well, we have to come to it may not be an audience for it at this point. That's a reality that we have to be prepared for. Fourth, I want them to do everything, but I don't want live action just to say they can do animated video games. Like I said, I to me, you give me the keys, I know what I'm doing. I know who I'm going to call. I know how I want it to structure. I know exactly how what I want it to look like, and I think it could work. You can do that. We were discussing this a while, but I think we were discussing this last year. How you could wrap it up, and then at some point, just to let you know what happened with those characters, if you wanted to, and then you could tell side stories to explain everything else. That's it. It's just got from the bar. Bar said, "Hey, thank you. Of course, I'm glad I could be a positive part of your night." I wonder what next fall Warner Brothers or DC Comics what new idea of Batman. Where could I get the 600 or 700? Well, we got the DCKO thing, and you have Absolute going into the second year. Um, it's only going to get better, and then you have the other titles. So right now, they just need to grow. William, do you have any of the Volume 1 comic series, or do I have some? I have a many of the first prints of all the absolutes. Yeah, and like I said, I am of the fact just get it done in comic book form, and let someone else worry about where it goes at that point. Once we have the story, I'm satisfied. And if the story gets adapted somewhere else, that's better. But I be honest with you, logistically, put yourself in the shoes of somebody who would have to spend the money on this. You're asking them to take a risk on our just based on our hopes and dreams. Give them some data. If we put out a comic book and it sells anywhere near what Absolute has done, and I think it actually would outsell because of the phenomenon and the whole, and like I said, you're only asking somebody to spend $4 on a comic book. I think that I think that it would do I think it would do well enough to give you metrics to be like, okay, let's see how this goes. Let's come back here in 6 months and see if how many copies total we sold, how many variants have we sold, how many copies have we sold to people who were not comic book nerds that we can bring in. It's a lot of data you could break down. But yeah, on the big screen, that's a tough ask. With each year that passed, the foundation you're trying to build is turning into dust. Yeah, everyone says James Gunn is the most comic booky creative person in the world, but I don't care what he's doing, kind of such. Yeah, I mean, literally, he doesn't. When you're adapting these comic books, that should just be the very first part of your adventure. If that's the first thing you see, you should be, in my opinion, you should. That's just like where you go. Like I said, when you're watching any of these things, I would love for your next step to be through my door because I would love to see you in there. All right, guys. I think that's where I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I just wanted to get a little bit off the chest, and we'll have a more detailed conversation tomorrow night when I have Brad with me. We may have some people on as well. We may have some guests that might want to discuss this. You just heard from me tonight, but that's where I think this is going. That's where I think it is right now. And like I said, I just think we just don't have enough information to go any specific place with this. So I will see you tomorrow afternoon for Wicked. But I will be watching wrestling the entire time. So I will be going back and forth, and me and Aaron will be watching that. Yeah. And then we'll have our later night show, and then we might do something on Sunday. So okie dokie, guys. Thank you for joining me on this impromptu journey. And please like, subscribe. And if you're watching from Twitter, right below us here, youtube.com/at the Sci-Fi Center. That's the channel. We would love you to come over there and watch. A lot of you watch us on X. A lot of you watch us on X. We had like 400 viewers last Saturday watching us on watching. Actually, a lot of those were watching us on YouTube. But anybody watching on Twitter, I would love for you to come over and officially join the family. And until then, I will see you guys later on this afternoon. Bye. You got this in right at the end, and I don't want to disrespect the fact that you contributed to the channel, Chappie. The reason why is there may be contractual obligations with depending on what their severances and their separations, there might be contractual obligations that say you can't do this while you're under contract. Now, right now, Jimmy Kimmel is under suspension, which means he's still being paid by Disney, ABC, etc. So they may control where he's able to go, and he would need to be let out of his contract. When it comes to Stephen Colbert, which I think you met, There might be things tied to his contract, like no competes and things like that. Like you can't do certain things under certain platforms by a certain time afterwards. So like 90 days, a year, whatever. So there may be things worked into their contracts, but if there are not, then you can rest assured that you will probably see both these individuals on different platforms when their contracts allow. Just wanted to get that out the way since you did contribute to the channel. All right. That's it. See you guys.